I guess we'll get started at 7 o'clock. And order. Start with the opening prayer. In the Son of our faith, in the name of the Father, Son, and Holy Spirit, amen. We come together in hope from different community groups, answering the same call to service, pieces of the same puzzle. We come together in gratitude for the trust placed in us, for the opportunity to serve, pieces of the same puzzle. We come together in respect, aware of our diversity, willing to work for the good, pieces of the same puzzle. Come together in awe of the wonder and beauty of each of God's children, pieces of the same puzzle. We come together in God's name, and as we work together toward the same goal, each piece of the puzzle begins to fit neatly into place, creating a breathtaking picture of love, compassion, courage, and grace. The Father, the Son, and Holy Spirit, amen. Okay, I think we're going to start, continue on with our land acknowledgement. Andrea, is that all good?
Each of us has a relationship to the natural environment, the land, water, earth, the habitat, and ecosystems. Land acknowledgements provide us with an opportunity to offer recognition, respect to the original inhabitants of the regions that we live in and work on. There are many things that we can do to go beyond simply reading a land acknowledgement script. To make it more meaningful, we need to consider that we are, in fact, acknowledging not only the ancestral lands, but also the historical and complex intersections of settler impacts on Indigenous histories, economies, ecologies, livelihood, well-being, and governance structures. A territorial acknowledgement is not an endpoint in the journey of reconciliation. Actions create conditions for true reconciliation and create a foundation for restoring, renewing, or developing a new relationship with Indigenous peoples. For hundreds of years, the Anishinaabe, the Haudenosaunee, the Attawaddaron, the Potawatomi, the Wendat, and Lenape nations have sought to walk gently on this land. They assisted the first European travelers to this territory and shared their knowledge for survival in what was, at times, a harsh climate. Under consultations from elders, knowledge holders from the Mississaugas of the Credit First Nation and 6 nations of the Grand River Territory, the Indigenous Education Advisory Committee, along with Halton Catholic District School Board, created this land acknowledgement.
Halton, as we know it today,
is rich in the history and modern traditions
of many First Nations and the Métis.
From the lands of the Anishinaabe
to the Attawaddaron,
the Haudenosaunee,
and the Métis. These lands surrounding the Great Lakes
are steeped in Indigenous history.
As we gather today
on these treaty lands,
our Catholic social teachings
call us in solidarity
with our Indigenous brothers and sisters
to honor and respect
the 4 directions. waters, plants, animals, and ancestors
that walked before us.
All these wonderful elements of creation exist.
gifted to us by our Creator God. We acknowledge and thank
The Mississaugas of the Credit First Nation
for being stewards of this traditional territory.
Agenda item 1.2. Has everyone had a chance to review the agenda? Is there any suggestions or changes, edits? Everyone's okay with that? If everyone's okay with the agenda, can I have a mover, please? Maria, can I move? Can I have a seconder?
I'll second it.
Seconded by Trustee Murphy. Great. Okay. Great. So on to item number 2, declarations of conflict of interest. Does anyone have any declarations of conflict of interest? Okay, great. So moving on to item number 3. So we don't have any, usually we have staff presentations. There are no presentations tonight. So we'll move on to item number 4, approval of the minutes. I'm not sure if everyone had a chance to review the minutes. Does anyone have any changes or suggestions or questions about the minutes? No? Okay. Can I have a mover then to approve the minutes?
Trustee Murphy.
Trustee Murphy, great. We'll move it. Can I have a seconder, please?
I'll move it.
Abiola, great. Thank you. Okay, great. Item number 5, let's going right along. Business arising from previous meetings. So the business arising from previous meetings chart was included in the package. Some of the items on the business arising are on tonight's agenda, such as committees and the program speaker. I can speak to the first item, which is the special education funding letter. I have the, I've been waiting, I also been preparing some data and some draft for special education funding letters. The model is pretty complex to understand, so I wanted to look at some data. I have the data from the ONSIS data from the Halton Catholic Board, so I have that to compare with the funding from for Halton Catholic from the ministry. So I'm ready to probably prepare that letter to, I believe, share with Trustee Agnew and have some comments made for that draft. Hopefully get it out before our next meeting. I'm not sure if we would pass it along to other members to review if anyone wants to have any suggestions to that, but I'll prepare a draft for Brenda to look at and go from there. And also wanted to loop in maybe Jody O'Reilly to, because she's a special education funding guru. And I might want to just ask her opinion on what the concepts of other have before we send it along. Great. Thanks, Jody. Okay. So that's that. We have first, so we have just above that's the SEAC discussion. So it's just the subcommittees provided. Okay, so we'll be doing that list of subcommittees is later on in the meeting. We'll address that later. Additional board committee updates. I don't think we have. I'm jumping ahead here in the table, so I don't want to jump ahead on the items we have further on in the agenda. Business arising for Inclusive Recreation Committee. That's, I believe, part of the subcommittee item later on the agenda as well. SEAC discussion for it's probably part of the SEAC discussion from the September 26, 2022 meeting. I believe that's part of the Code of Conduct review. I think we're looking at preparing. And November 7th is the business arising consideration. Yes, okay, so that's the same thing. That's the Code of Conduct subcommittee that will, I guess we're striking to or putting together to review the Code of Conduct. Are there any questions about any of the table items? Oh, sorry, other side. Future agenda discussion. Instead of me going through this, are there any questions for anybody that anybody has about any of the items on here? We're going to address a few of these items further on in the meeting. Yes, Maria, sorry, go ahead.
Thanks, Rick. I did have a couple of questions. The item regarding the consideration to determine if code of conduct guidelines will be added as a future agenda item. So it says January agenda, but it wasn't clear. I didn't see it on the agenda, so I wasn't sure where that.
So I think it's part of the, I believe we have the committee struck, or sorry, we'll be putting together a committee for SEAC. And I thought I saw that as part of the, let me catch up to you here. Okay, so it's not on here, but we can suggest putting on a committee, a subcommittee to look at the code again. And we did subcommittee last year to review the whole, prepare the whole thing. So I imagine a review of that area or that section, we could probably add on as a subcommittee if that's okay. I don't know if that's something we can add on. I guess we just add it to the list of subcommittees.
Well, I guess, I mean, I guess that's fine. But my understanding of that item was to determine whether we would be reviewing the guidelines in the meeting, like not rewriting them, but just reviewing them as they are. That was my understanding of that item.
Okay,
So-
within the actual SEAC meeting itself?
Yeah, like that we would go over it, right? Because there's a lot of new members, et cetera. And there was some confusion on a couple of the points. So that's kind of how I understood that piece.
Okay, so it's a fairly large, I hear what you're saying. It's a fairly large document, so maybe if we pick out a little section to look at and then in the interest of like not taking too long to review the entire document, we could, I guess, look at the section specifically, everyone look at it and get suggestions.
Yeah, well, I mean, there's a couple of other things as well that that came up, right, that we were going to look at. So I'm not sure how, I'm not sure how best to address it, but I guess I was just wondering, because it did say January agenda. So you're saying that refers to the creation of a new committee?
Yeah, I was under the impression that we discussed the idea of having a striking, put together a subcommittee to look at that specific wording of that section that you're discussing, the one about speaking to individual or personal experiences. I know what you're referring to.
Yeah.
We can have that as, because no one's had a chance to look at it and prepare it, I guess. We can specifically ask for members maybe for the February meeting to look at that if you want to have it as an agenda item, you mean? Or,
Yeah, well, I guess, I guess that's on here also. And I guess, I was just asking right now where this was on the January agenda. So it sounds like this is maybe being confused with something else, but I guess maybe we can take that offline and figure out when.
yeah, I mean, I think we'd even look at it at reviewing it's like I said, do a subcommittee, but if there's one section to look at, then we can just pull it out, maybe have people comment on it or discuss maybe at the next meeting. If that's a specific agenda item, that's. Yeah,
I guess we can talk about that further too when we get to that item on the agenda, but I did have a couple of other questions.
Okay.
Because there was a couple of things that came up in the last meeting that were to be brought forward. And I think they should be on this schedule as well. So there was a question that nobody had the answer readily available as to whether there's a procedure or a new bylaw to address how the board responds to recommendations from SEAC or other advisory committees.
Okay, that's that here as well. It's in the table, right?
I didn't see it. Is it? Did I miss it?
In the minutes? Oh, it's in the minutes. Okay, yeah, I did see it.
Okay, so it should be on the
So,
schedule,
okay.
right? Because this is business arising from the minutes. So I think it should be another
So we should
item.
put that in this table then?
Yeah,
Okay, so it's,
and hopefully have an answer to that.
so we can put that in, add that to the table for next.
Right.
Okay.
And the other thing, and I may have missed it because I'm having some issues with my email, but there was a question, there was some books that were being provided in the libraries as to how to support neurodivergent students. And I think a list was supposed to be sent out to SEAC members. So did that get sent out? Did I miss it or did that not get sent out? Not sure.
Believe that was trustee Powell that requested that, or she was involved. Okay, yeah, thank you, Superintendent Powell.
Yeah, no problem. We do expect to send the list. We're going to send it via email following our meeting today. We did follow up with library services and they've shared the recommended list from our student senate to our library techs and library staff, and she was going to finalize the list and share it with me. We didn't have it for today, but I will have it sent to everybody by the end of the week. I noted that as well from the minutes.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
Okay, is that that answer your question? All good? Okay, great. Does anyone else have any questions about the business arising? Okay, so maybe we'll put the how the board addresses the recommendations onto future business arising. Okay, so on to the next agenda item is the Special Education Board Policy Review. We don't have any policies to review tonight. So I'll jot my notes, make sure I'm not. Yeah, no, there are no policies to review for this evening, so we will go on to agenda item 7, action and information items. So the first item is the calendar of events, and you've all had, it was in the package that was sent out, the agenda package. So that will, members can review that to see what's coming up on future meetings. If you want to add items to the future meetings, it's a good chance to look at what's coming down the pipe and what maybe you'd like to see. We'll get more discussion on additional presentations for staff later on in this meeting. So if anyone has any questions about the calendar of events, you can ask now, or you can send a text or an email in later. Okay, great. So we'll move on to item 7.2, National Accessibility Week. We have Brenda on. Do you know, Andrew?
Hi, I'm here, Mr. Chair. I don't know if you can hear me or not. Oh, I can't hear you guys. Okay, so apparently you guys can hear me. I can't hear you, but that's okay. So thank you for indulging me participating remotely tonight. I'm just worried I'm going to cut someone off. So somebody wave their hand if they're trying to talk and I'm talking over them. Like I said, since I can't hear you. But I'm wondering, Andrea Hughes, would you be able to put on the screen the information in the motion that's coming to the table next week for consideration? And if not, that's okay too. I can just speak to it. And I'm also going to, Amanda is also going to assist me in speaking to this matter as well.
Okay, Brenda, go ahead.
Great, thank you. Okay, I'm just looking. I don't see it up on the screen, but that's okay. So let me just grab my notes then, since I don't have it up on the screen. So there was a notice of motion that was put forward for consideration at the upcoming board meeting. That pertains to National Accessibility Awareness Week. And like I said, I am going to ask Amanda to assist me a little bit with part of this conversation. But National Accessibility Awareness Week is an initiative that has been created and put forth to be recognized by a number of different organizations and cities and companies and educational institutions to really promote the ideas around accessibility and the importance of accessibility and why, why we need to pay special attention. And when we talk about accessibility, we don't just talk about physical accessibility, but we talk about removing systemic and attitudinal barriers as well. And so there's a few different components to it, but that's the idea behind National Accessibility Awareness Week, is really a push to make it front and center for, like I said, companies, individuals, organizations to pay attention to the needs of everyone in our communities. And we have to remember again, when we talk about accessibility is good for, is a must for some, but it is great for all. And, you know, we always want to ensure that we are, again, removing any barriers for any and all of our students, our staff, our visitors, and anyone that is coming into our schools and into our communities. So there is the motion in front of you. It just is recapping a little bit of what I've just said. And it's there for you to take a look at, to ask any questions. Like I said, it will be coming to the board table next week, but obviously having to do with accessibility, I wanted to make sure that it came here to SEAC for you to take a look at, to give feedback on, that can be shared when this motion is presented next week. So that's kind of it from my point. Happy to answer any questions, but like I said, I would like to pass the floor over to Amanda, who is also very passionate about this initiative. We spoke about it. She also brought it to my attention as something we might want to try to look at moving forward. So Amanda, I would invite you to speak to this if you feel comfortable in adding a few words.
Absolutely. I thought, Andrea, did you have a question? No? Oh, sorry. So yeah, I came to Brenda with some ideas. I know that Easter Seals is really supporting National Accessibility Week and Red Shirt Day, which is like the Wednesday that falls in the week, which would just be like a visible display of us, you know, standing in solidarity to with all people with disabilities and their families and anybody who's impacted by that. I think it's really important for across the school board to just, you know, show our support in this initiative, because I think everybody in the school board is affected by disability in some way or another, or supports somebody that has a disability. And persons with disabilities, they have, you know, it's a human right to be able to have everything be accessible to them. And I really feel very passionately that it's something that we all supported. So, yeah.
Thanks, Amanda. And I'll just add one more part to that, if that's okay. But, you know, just as you were speaking, you know, it's very true. And I think a lot of the times, systemic barriers, attitudinal barriers. I mean, physical barriers are one thing. Physical barriers, you know, there's legislation around that. There's often, you know, building codes. There are things in writing that, you know, do hold communities and organizations accountable to make sure that they are accessible in a physical means. But attitudinal and systemic, those are a little bit harder to combat. And I honestly feel that there's a lot of times that things become inaccessible simply out of people not having the knowledge and the information. And, you know, the minute you have a conversation with someone, the minute you show somebody why something is important, or you highlight for them a barrier to access, or, you know, you provide them with that detail, I feel like a light bulb goes off. And people are not meaning to be intentionally, I think, dismissive of including everybody when it comes to accessibility. So this is a great opportunity to take that chance to, again, provide some education, some resources, some information, and like Amanda said, just to show a greater solidarity, if you will, to accessibility for those who need it. So happy to take any questions.
It's a really great initiative, and for the board to recognize world across the board and educate people during that week. Does anyone have any questions for Brenda or Amanda on the notice of motion? I don't see any hands, Brenda.
Okay, great. If anybody has any thoughts or comments between now and next week, please let me know. Obviously, it's super important to get the feedback of this group here. So if there's any information that you would like me to incorporate when I am presenting this motion next Tuesday, please just send that to me. I would be happy to do so. Thanks very much.
Thank you, Brenda. So if anyone has any more comments or suggestions for Brenda, please send an email before, I guess, Tuesday. Is that right, Brenda?
Yeah, I mean, even up until, you know, before the board meeting starts, just so that I can make sure that I incorporate that into when I present the motion. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
We'll go on to the next item, 7.3 SEAC subcommittees and board committees, requests from members. So the list of SEAC subcommittees and board committees and description and time commitment was included in the package that went out for this meeting. We're looking for volunteers from SEAC for both the subcommittees and board committees. Everyone, I don't know if everyone had a chance to review the list of committees there. There's a I don't know, maybe a dozen or a dozen altogether, I guess. There is some urgency to get members for the, in particular, the Spirit of Inclusion Subcommittee to select recipients. The awards are in March. So this one meeting is on Teams in February. We're asking for volunteers for that one as soon as possible. And for all the committees, if you could take a peek and see if there's something that interests you or that you could offer to help out with, that would be great. But particularly the Spirit of Inclusion Subcommittee, I've been on that subcommittee the last couple of years, so I'm happy to be a part of it again if necessary, and happy to be part of the selection. It's a really great committee to see. You get to see all the essentially resumes of these great kids that are really model citizens. Really good chance to review the great kids we have in our board. So I guess if you want to think about it, please I guess we know as soon as possible. Right? We can send an email to Brenda or Andrea or myself. Brenda, oh, sorry. Brenda, go ahead.
Yeah, no, that's okay. Thank you. Through you, Mr. Chair. I just was, for consideration of my fellow SEAC members, I thought about some additional SEAC subcommittees, and I'm not sure who's in the boardroom, but I for sure Maria and Rhonda would remember that, we had a number of subcommittees previously to try to move some of the business of SEAC ahead. We always have so many initiatives that we want to spearhead and get going, and there's only so much bandwidth. But I did notice that we didn't have a parent engagement subcommittee, and I know in the past we had, and if I'm missing it, please, I apologize. I haven't been feeling well the last few days, but parent engagement is usually top of mind for us at SEAC, and so perhaps having a subcommittee for parent engagement, if it's not there, I think might be of some value for consideration. And also maybe the pro grant. I know it's coming up later on in our agenda, but if we are going to go ahead with a pro grant speaker or a series of speakers, maybe the consideration of having a subcommittee to work on bringing that together and working through the logistics of that, that could be helpful. So I just wanted to put those two forward as ideas for subcommittees.
That's great. Thanks, Brenda. Yeah, absolutely. I think we should put those on there. I guess the only question I would have is whether there's any time restrictions for pro grants. That was initially, I know a couple of years ago we had that set up for May before, like during COVID, and we couldn't have it because of COVID. I don't know if there's a time commitment for that. I know the Spirit of Inclusion has a time commitment for February meeting. I don't know if the parent engagement and pro grants are similarly impacted. Anyways, we can figure out if there's dates required for the pro grants or in the rest of the subcommittees. I seem to have misplaced my subcommittee list, so I apologize, everyone. But if you can review the list sent out, and we'll add parent engagement and pro grants. We'll send an email out to that as well. Thank you. Thank you, Superintendent Bello. We'll add the parent engagement and pro grants subcommittees to the list. That's a great idea, Brenda. Thank you. And as mentioned earlier, we're asking for volunteers for the committees, both board and subcommittee and SEAC subcommittees. Please take a look at the lists and review the subcommittees and committees that are out there. And if you want to think about it, please let Andrea or Brenda or myself know about via email that you're interested. I think we could also send out a form. Andrea, is that right? People can just put their names in the subcommittee or committee if they're interested in it. There is some, as mentioned, there is some urgency to get the members for the Spirit of Inclusion Subcommittee selected, since that meeting has to happen, I believe, in February for the March awards ceremony. Are there any questions or anyone that wants to? Yes, Maria, go ahead.
Hi, yeah, just further to the earlier conversation around the Code of Conduct Review Subcommittee. So I guess I'm just trying to understand what we're trying to accomplish there, because I know there, like, yes, there was a couple things that I raised those questions because they're in the Code of Conduct and I didn't feel we were following them. So that was the reason that I raised those questions. But it sounds like we're looking to review the document and propose edits. Now, I know we have a new group and we should take input from the new group, but you know, we just wrote this in December 2021, and Rick, you're on the committee with me. So, you know, we put in quite a bit of effort, right? So like, I don't want to see it, you know, are we sort of reinventing the wheel here? Like, I don't, you know, I think the document's pretty good. If there's things, so, you know, maybe again, like if we bring it to the meeting, we review it. If there's things, of course, we have a new group and their input is valued as well. You know, if we do feel that there's a need, sure. But I feel like we're sort of creating work here that maybe was not necessary. So that's just my feedback on that.
Sure. Yeah. Yes. Thanks. Thank you, Maria. I agree. We don't have to create a subcommittee for it if it creates more work. I don't want to create more work. That's the opposite of what I want to do. If we want to take out the one section and just review that, I'm not sure if it's a page or half a page. It's not very long. We can review the specifics of that section and just, you know, probably put that into a short meeting agenda item, right? So
yeah, and get everyone's input at the same time, yep, right? Yep. And there's a lot of committees on here, and we've just talked about adding a couple more. So you know.
Yeah, I'm okay with that. That's fine. We'll just add that section there, and maybe send an email out to the members before, just to review that section, and we can discuss. We can put an agenda item on to discuss that specific agenda item for the next meeting. Yes, Superintendent Ballot, go ahead.
No problem. Thank you. And through you, Mr. Chair. I would agree with that. I think the intent was to have further discussion about some of those items that are pending. So if we want to focus on that for February, we can look specifically at the items in the business arising that speak to the Code of Conduct. And it's the SEAC guidelines Code of Conduct. I will note that as well. And then we can come to that February meeting sort of ready to talk about those specific areas collectively.
Could I request we do it for March, because I did bring those items forward and I'm not sure I'm going to be here for February. So would that be okay? It's been a few months anyways. If we could do it maybe in March, that would be appreciated.
Yeah, I guess okay. For the March meeting instead of February, sure, gives us plenty of time to look at it. So. Okay, so moving on to the next agenda item. Sorry, just to close up the subcommittee again, please, we'll send out. Please let either the chair, or Brenda know, or myself know, or Andrea via email if you want to be a part of the committees or subcommittee. And I believe we can even prepare a form. I won't create too much work for you, Andrea, but if you just want to put your name in there and review it, which committees you'd like to join. Thank you so much. Moving on to agenda item 7.4, it's the program presenters. Okay, so this, I believe there's 3,500. I'm not sure what the amount is. There's budget money left over for program presenters. So I believe we can have speakers come in and address, I guess will be either ourselves or a parent engagement night or something. And there was a request, I believe, to get names for presenters that we could contact, reach out to, and see if they're interested in coming to a program, I guess an event. Did anyone have any names that they wanted to bring forward? I know Brenda had a couple of names from the last meeting. Does anyone have anyone? Pardon me? Brenda has her. Oh, okay, great.
Thank you, and through you, Mr. Chair. And perhaps some of this if we do a program committee, could be addressed by them. But I have a couple of names to suggest, but also a couple of questions about how we wanted to do this. If there was an appetite to, I know that we had talked about perhaps doing this in person again. I know that we had wanted, just step back for a second. We had done an in-person event previously where we invited all the associations to come out, and we had talked about doing that again and sort of making it a program, but then also like, who is SEAC, and trying to encourage engagement with parents and with families out there. So I wondered if there was an appetite for us. We had one all planned, and then COVID hit and we had to cancel it. But if there's an appetite to go back in person, I do think there's a lot of merit to having an in-person event. Again, we can have associations come out with their table, with information. We can have a display on what SEAC is and have some of our amazing staff and their programs come out. So, just something I wanted to put on the table. And again, I don't know if perhaps that would move to a committee conversation. But just an idea. And then I did have 2 other speakers I wanted to add. Again, if people, I'm happy to send them in an email if you want to look them up. And one of them, Maria, you'll be very familiar with, is Joy Davis, who does a lot of work in the gifted community, but she does a lot of work around neurodivergent and intersectionalities on different students and their needs. And so that could be a consideration, would be Joy Davis, and I can send a link to her website. And then another individual that I have access to is a gentleman named Mike Shorman. And for anyone that's not familiar with Mike Shorman, Mike is, he has a disability as a result of Ramsay Hunt syndrome. And he became the first paddle boarder with a disability to cross all the 5 Great Lakes last summer. So he's doing a documentary. His work is being recognized, and he did the crossing to raise awareness for mental health. So he's another individual we could consider, and I do know him personally. Again, it's Mike Shorman. I'll be happy to send you his website if you'd like to take a look at his accomplishments. But he's done a lot of talks at a number of different schools. So just someone else for consideration. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you, Brenda. So those are 2 names so far, Joy Davis and Mike Shorman, that Brenda has suggested. Does anyone else want to think about any names or speakers? Okay, Maria, go ahead.
I don't have any names to add, but I actually was trying to get Joy Davis's website up because I have some information to share about her later. That would be awesome. Both those speakers sound fantastic. And oh man, it seems like so long ago we talked about in person with association. The association's coming out, and it would be fantastic if we could do that. So I think those are all great ideas. Fully in support. Thank you.
Great, thank you. Thank you, Brenda. Thank you, Maria. So we will.
Sorry, Rick, can I jump in for one more moment? I'm sorry. You can tell I'm passionate about this. There could also be some consideration depending on time and finances and how we do this, but we also could consider doing an in-person event and then also providing a virtual opportunity. So if we did have enough money to have more than one speaker, because I think I'd also mentioned Kyle Scott as well before, but anyways, just something to think about. I know that CPIC does a series of events, and I don't think any reason why we couldn't do a series of events. And I know that previously we had a few different speakers for SEAC from our pro grant. So maybe we think about doing an in-person event, and then we entertain the idea of doing a virtual event, and then we can maybe, have 2 great speakers as part of that pro grant. So again, just something for consideration. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
No, that sounds fabulous. So we have 3 names now as possible pro-grant speakers, and I think it's probably to move that forward. The pro-grant subcommittee, if we put together, can begin to determine dates and venues or online, and we can finalize a speaker, I guess. If we have, if you have that information to share via email for each of those speakers, that'd be great. I know, Maria, you said you were looking up Joy Davis. Go ahead, Maria. Yep.
Do we know how much money we have?
Superintendent Bell says it's $3,500, so $3,500. So I don't know what speakers cost, so I don't know if that means we can get.
Yeah, for some reason I can't bring up Joy Davis's website up. I can Google search her, but when I go to the website, the server is not responding. So.
But we can certainly follow up with that and send an email to everyone to review those speakers, and we can follow up with what the cost might be to have them speak either in person or online as part of an event. That's great. Thank you for all your suggestions, Brenda and Maria. So we'll move on now to. Oh, does anyone have any more questions about the speakers or wants to speak about the program agenda item? No. Okay, great. So we'll move on to agenda item 7.5. Sorry, Superintendent Ballo is going to speak about presentations of the SEAC, and Superintendent Ballo, go ahead.
Thank you, through you, Mr. Chair. So typically we would have presentations that we bring to our SEAC, and we certainly want to be able to provide information with regards to areas of interest that our SEAC may have. Oftentimes we invite our staff from a variety of different departments or from within our own department and a variety of different areas to do some presentations to help build everybody's capacity and understanding of special education, mental health. We're certainly open to any suggestions. And what we did include for the purpose of this evening in your package is a list of some examples of some staff presentations that we have held in the past to SEAC. It's certainly not an exhaustive list. I can certainly read through that list. And what I would also add is perhaps last year or the year before, we also sent a survey out. We sent a form out to all of our SEAC members, and I'm happy to do that after our meeting this evening. I just wanted to give you some food for thought with regards to any presentations we've had in the past. But we will send a form. Any suggestions with regards to a topic that you may find of interest that you would like us to consider in terms of presenting to SEAC? We're happy to take your feedback and collect that information from all of you. So as I mentioned, there is a list there that you can certainly review. The other option and the other opportunity that you also have is to present an association presentation. It's later in our agenda, and I don't know that we spent too much time on it at the December meeting, which would be new to all of you, but typically it's item 9.3, and it's association reports. And just a few housekeeping items around that. That really is an opportunity for you to bring any updates from your association to share with the group and help us understand the great work that your associations are doing, any resources that you think may be of value to the group. We do need the reports. They're typically 10 days prior to the meeting. And then we do add those to our agenda. As I said, it's a standing item. So any month that you have any information you'd like to present an association report, we certainly do welcome you doing that. I know we do have some SEAC members at the table who have presented association reports in the past. Certainly happy to have anybody, share any tips for our new members as well, or what the process is that maybe you participate in when you're reaching out to your association for any ideas. Okay, I can continue if you want. So there is an attachment there. It speaks to item 7.5, which is the sample list of items. I know in September with our previous SEAC, we did present some information around identification and numbers. And I do recall there was an interest in some information with regards to a student who would be identified with a multiple exceptionality. So I haven't forgotten that. I would like to add that to a future meeting. You did receive the calendar, and I point that out at this point because we've already penciled in a few presentations that we had already made a commitment to. One of them being the after school skills development program, which we have scheduled for April, as well as a presentation on SEA, our special education amount, which is regarding funding for special education equipment, devices, etc. Both of those presentations are scheduled for April. And just in looking at that calendar, in February, we do have a presentation both related to budget. So one is Budget 101. So our Superintendent of Finance, Aaron Lofts, will be doing a presentation, and we'll really be speaking about the model of budget and finance when it comes to special education as an overview. You'll note that he's coming back in May, and in May typically comes and does a presentation on more specifics around the actual funding. And so he will be here for two presentations. In March, our Spirit of Inclusion Awards will be a presentation in terms of taking up some time on our agenda. We usually have one, but we have also had two presentations at our meeting. So it can range from 30 to about 45, 50 minutes. And we are mindful of the rest of our agenda when we're planning those presentations. And as I noted in April, we do have the two presentations that have been penciled in, and then May. So I do offer that just as an overview of how it works with our presentations, and then we'll send you a form. Happy to collect any ideas from the group with regards to your own interests.
Great, thank you so much, Superintendent Ballo. So please review again the list of presentations. If there's anything you think you might like to see, please send an email along and to Brenda or myself or Andrea or Superintendent Ballo. The calendar is not quite full. We can probably fit a few of these, I think, in before the end of the year, but keep in mind we also have the next school year as well to throw in some of these additional presentations if we can't squeeze in the presentation. Now, and obviously we won't be able to fit in all these presentations, but a few of them would be great to have, and we can push it forward to the next school year as well, starting in September. So feel free to review the list and submit any suggestions or any requests or additional questions. Any more questions on that? Anybody? No? Great. Thank you, Superintendent Ballo. On to agenda item 7.6, SEAC membership update. So we have to inform our fellow members that Chris Pereira, who is I believe is the alternate for Easter Seals, I think, is no longer able to be an alternate, so he will no longer be with SEAC going forward. So we're just letting everybody know that. Easter Seals will inform us when they have an alternate to nominate. And on to agenda item 8, board committee updates from SEAC representatives. There are no updates tonight since we have a new SEAC, and we're just, obviously as mentioned before, we're just gathering some volunteers and some members to join those committees. On to agenda item 9.1, communications to SEAC. We'll start with Superintendent Ballo.
Thank you, and through you, Mr. Chair. So I'm happy to provide some updates this evening for SEAC. I'll begin with some of our student supports and programs and professional development updates. So our blind low vision team has developed a kit to support assessment and programming for students with CVI, cortical visual impairment, and are working with the Learning Resource Center to expand resources for these students. On January the 18th, a virtual information session was hosted by Halton Support Services, Developmental Services Ontario, and our local community living chapters to help families plan for the transition from high school to post-secondary. Parents and our HCDSB staff were invited to learn more about the services and agencies from the Halton area for people who have a developmental disability. And some of the topics of discussion included recreation programs, specialized services, day programs, special interest classes, employment supports, respite opportunities, passport funding, and Developmental Services Ontario. So it was a very fulsome opportunity. With regards to professional development, the new CERT, CLC, which is a meeting that we hold with our staff fairly frequently, was held on January the 16th. Some topics that were covered include the facilitation of transition case conferences, the gifted identification process, entry to community classrooms, just to mention a few of the items. Denise Cully, who's here with us this evening, and Andrea Borg, HCDSB Communicative Disorders Assistant, were guests on the Speech and Language and Audiology Canada podcast called Shining Lights, and it was hosted by Dr. Archibald to discuss our tiered supports of students using alternative and augmentative communication. So very grateful, and congratulations to Denise for her participation in that and representing our board. Our SLPs, speech and language pathologists, and CDAs attended a virtual workshop on Gestalt language acquisition and using echolalia to support language development. Our SLPs and our CDAs attended a workshop on functional communication training as well. So they've been very busy. The January CERT meeting included a presentation by Nancy Wise on French and special education. We have done a lot of work in this area to support all of our students, and training on the new Do the Math resource. Do the Math is a new Tier 2 intervention for math that has been purchased for every elementary school. We are investing a lot of time in training our CERTs and our teachers on being able to use that Tier 2 intervention with their students. The special education department heads, who are our secondary certs, had their second subject council meeting of the year. It was very recent. The agenda topics included a review of the independence rubric, an overview of the role of the transition ICER. We have a dedicated itinerant who supports all of our secondary schools with students transitioning between grades and post-secondary, as well as project search, work on the locally developed programming and pathways committee, and a presentation by Discoverability, which is a job matching platform for students who are transitioning to the workplace post-secondary. With regards to mental health and well-being, our student senate and student trustees are hosting a student event on Friday, and our chief of mental health programming, Glenda Brown, as well as our chief social worker, Jane Atchison, will be presenting on the mental health action plan, the service delivery model that we use in our board with regards to mental health, and our tiered model of intervention. They will be actively seeking feedback from the student group on a variety of mental health issues that will help to inform continued student learning opportunities moving forward. We always like to take every opportunity to gather information and feedback from our students. They're very involved, and we really do appreciate that. All secondary schools have also identified a mental health student champion and a teacher champion, and we're having our first in-person meeting February 24th with the group of students and staff from every secondary school that we have. That meeting will be taking place at St. FX, and they will be creating a sustainable framework for mental health champions to work through this year and in years to come. And this is, again, another opportunity to advance student engagement and build system-wide capacity when it comes to mental health and well-being, with the involvement of all of our student leaders in every secondary school. Happy to answer any questions.
Great. Thank you so much, Superintendent Ballo. Does anyone have any questions for Superintendent Ballo's report? No? Once, going twice? No? Okay. Great. Thank you, Superintendent Ballo, for that. We'll move on to now the item 9.2, trustee report, and Trustee Murphy is going to be. Thank you, Trustee Murphy.
Hi, thank you, Mr. Chair. Trustee Powell had a bit of a emergency. She had to leave for work, and so she's supposed to be sending me the report, and I am awaiting it in my inbox. Can you circle back to me?
Absolutely, yeah. We will come back to that and move on to item 10, SEAC discussion item and questions. I know we discussed earlier the association presentations that Superintendent Ballo mentioned as list of the presentations. I just wanted to bring up that Voice is offering to do a March presentation and report to introduce Voice to the group, to those of us who those members who don't know or aren't sure about what Voice does. So we'll do a report and a presentation, and I'll see if Rhonda wants to join me perhaps on that March agenda item. So I just wanted to mention that we will do that. I think I did have discussion, an email discussion with Jessica from ABC, and she mentioned that she would chat with Maria, and they might do the April one if they can squeeze that in. That'd be great. So, and hopefully that gets the ball rolling for everyone to kind of do some presentations and get to know what each association does, and that'll be great to get some more information and refresh our memories and know what our association's primary purpose and goals are and objectives. So unfortunately, that's almost the last of the agenda items, Trustee Murphy. So I don't know. Oh, sorry. Oh, Maria has a question. Thank you, Maria. Over to you.
I actually had a couple of things for this agenda item, so I'll buy Trustee Murphy some time. Hopefully, I can go slowly. But yeah, no, I would encourage. I can't imagine when I first joined SEAC doing an association presentation, so I could understand that some of the new members might be a bit shy. But hopefully, if we go ahead, and maybe FASD, they did one before, which was great. I think we're the 3 associations with returning members, so hopefully that will maybe even by September the other associations, because it's always wonderful to learn more about them. In addition to that, I just had a question and some information I wanted to share. So the question, and this is an area that I really have no knowledge, but a parent has come forward. So I want to bring the question forward, and I'd like to learn myself as well. To understand what the criteria is for special education students to be credit earning. So this parent has been told that because their child has an EA that they can't be credit earning, that in order to be credit earning that the student needs to be fully independent. And if they get EA support, they could only earn a certificate, not a diploma. So that seems to be inconsistent with what other students seem to be doing. Again, that's not an area I have familiarity with. So I'd like to maybe if staff can help us to understand that better, and maybe can you direct us to where this is? I don't know if it's in the Education Act, if it's in the PPM, if it's in a ministry document. I don't know if it's in our spec ed plan. I don't remember ever seeing that, but maybe I've missed it. Anything that staff can share or bring forward later would be much appreciated.
Okay, Maria, so I'm just going to forward that to Superintendent Ballo or Jody, perhaps. Jody O'Reilly, can maybe speak to that, please.
Thanks through you, Mr. Chair. Yeah, no problem. I will do my best, Maria. As you know, it's on a case-by-case basis, so I can't speak to this specific case that you've mentioned in terms of being told that they cannot have an EA. We know that some students in our board do require the support. Maybe perhaps they have a physical disability or something, so they might have support of an EA in a class where it's credit earning. That being said, aside from that, it's more about the student's independence. So I know you mentioned that they must be fully independent. So I think it's what is that EA? What is the purpose of the EA? And how are they supporting that student? Because they need to be able to earn the credit independently. Some of our students, when they're in elementary, they might have some support from the EA that is that academic support. So it looks a little bit different when we're talking about earning credits in secondary. So again, I can't speak, I guess, into this particular student, but certainly there are, we do have some EAs that support students that are credit earning, but that might be for other needs that they have, not necessarily related to their academic ability and their independence and in it being able to earn that credit independently, to be able to do the work independently.
Just follow up on that. So absolutely, I wasn't looking for a specific, I know you can't address a specific case, but I guess it sounded like the reasoning was of a general nature. So that's why I was trying to understand. And so is it outlined anywhere, or is it really up to the principal or somebody at, in the school board to determine whether that child should earn a credit? Like, is there any references that we can access with regards to that?
You okay?
Sorry, yes, go ahead. Sorry.
Yeah, so I'm not sure that it's outlined in any policy document that I'm aware of. We talk about student independence yearly when we have a student with an independence rubric. So that's often the reference that we use related to that. But I'm not sure there's any outline as a general rule that we say that this is the blanket statement. It certainly is. We look at each student's level of independence through the independence rubric process, and on a case-by-case basis, look at really what is the best place based on their previous academic history, their IEP, what their particular goals are. And I'm not sure that we relate credit earning to EA support exactly in the way you're looking for outlined in any sort of document or anything like that. But we certainly consider again, the IEP, what were their academic, what were their academic achievements prior to entry into secondary school, and what are their accommodations and modifications? Are they on an alternative curriculum? Looking at those pieces and the independence rubric, we take all of that into consideration when looking at secondary.
Thanks. Is that good, Maria? Did that answer?
Well, I think that's, yeah.
Okay, thanks.
I'll have them listen to the meeting because I'm not sure I'll be able to repeat all that back. It's obviously not straightforward. And I guess, like I said, when they presented the question, it sounded like it was kind of a policy type thing or an Education Act type thing. So that helps clarify that it's not. And just take it back to them. So I did have some information to share if I could do that.
Sure, go ahead. Absolutely.
Yeah. So, and I apologize for not bringing this forward earlier for staff. I'm a bit delayed here because this started today, but there is a summit going on online. It's called, and I don't know if I'm going to pronounce this right, I urge teacher and parent summit, and there's 3 sessions. It's out of the States, but it's online. And it's gifted education scholars in the States that are running a 3-part series discovering culturally responsive practices to support diverse gifted students. So Joy Lawson Davis is one of the speakers. And I would encourage, if staff are not following her already, to follow. She's on Twitter. I'm sure she has a website. I'm not going to be able to do these people justice, but she is an expert in gifted education and also an expert in culturally diverse, underrepresented groups, et cetera. And so that's all combined. She's written books and articles and all kinds of things. She's very passionate about groups that are underrepresented in gifted education. I don't know, we've done a lot of that work here in Canada, but in the States, you know, it was a big struggle the last few years where they almost eliminated, and maybe I'm not up to speed on everything. They probably did eliminate in some states gifted programming because not all groups were well represented. Instead of finding ways to represent those groups, they got rid of the programs, which is not the answer. So there's 3 sessions. The first one was this evening, but if you register, so it's $30 per session or $75 for the 3, which is in US dollars. But you can access the recordings for 30 days. I'm not sure if it's too late to access tonight's recording, but I've registered. I'm going to listen to it when I get a chance. So tonight's session was meeting the needs of neurodiverse students. March 27th is partnering with diverse parents to support their gifted learners. And then session 3 on May 22nd is meeting the socio-emotional needs of culturally diverse students. So it's put on by the Consortium for Inclusion of Underrepresented Racial Groups in Gifted Education. So I know that equity is a really important work that we're doing here at this board and across the province. And sometimes we forget about the students that are underrepresented in the gifted or the high achieving, high potential groups. Again, we haven't done a lot of the work here in Canada, but I know like in the States, they found some groups are overrepresented in, say, the LD categories and underrepresented in gifted categories, et cetera. So I'm hoping that the equity work that we're doing here will look at those sorts of things as well. But these are some great sessions. It's not very expensive to learn more about this. And I'm sure it can also, there could be applications to other exceptionalities as well, right? So I just wanted to share that information, and I can forward a link to it to staff. So hopefully maybe some staff members can take advantage of that as well. And if there's parents listening, they might want to also. So I just want to share that. And hopefully Trustee Murphy has her report, because I have nothing else to say, believe it or not.
Sorry, everyone. I do not have, Mr. Chair, I do not have.
Oh, okay. Go ahead. Go ahead.
Thank you. I wasn't trying to buy you time, Trustee Murphy. I legitimately had a comment, but if it buys you more time, then so be it. But just I wanted to make a comment, Maria, and without getting into specifics, but I know that you were at the meeting that I was at a number of years ago where a comment was made, a general comment was made that in our board we had not had students requiring full-time EA support that had been credit earning. And I don't know if you remember that meeting, but it stuck with me when that comment was made, because it seems so unbelievable that we wouldn't have a student who required EA support and be credit earning. And I can tell you factually that in my experience, that has not in fact been the case. And so if there is a parent listening, and I mean, Jody is I don't want to speak over our staff because they are the experts in this, but just to say to that family that the possibilities are endless, and to start the conversation, and as you know, and to start the conversation early, and that I do know students in our secondary level who do require EA support and who are not only credit earning, but are working towards a diploma. And so just some food for thought that it definitely has been possible in my experience and what I've seen, and for that family to just sort of start early and I wish them great success, because I think anything is possible. And if it hasn't been done before, I know that our staff can be very good at finding new and unique ways for all of our students to achieve. So just without giving specifics, I wish them the best of luck, but it's absolutely possible.
Thank you, Brenda. Your mic cut out a couple times there, but I think we got the majority of what your message was. So thank you so much for that. Does anyone else have? So thank you, Maria, for sharing the iUrge Teacher Parent Summit. Is that correct? And yeah, please forward the link information to Andrew, to yourself, and Andrew will forward along. Thank you so much, Maria. It's great. Does anyone else have any other discussion items or questions for this agenda item? Paul?
I do have a quick question.
Andy, go ahead. Yeah.
Okay. So yeah, I just had a quick question around the presentations because I did go back to Halton Down Syndrome Association, who I represent, and they're very eager to put together a presentation and share. And we have a board member actually who is an adult with Down syndrome whose parents founded Halton Down Syndrome 35, 40 years ago, who would love to also join me and come and help represent what abilities he and how he's able to thrive in the community because of Halton Down Syndrome Association. So I just wanted to get some feedback if that would be something that is embraced, and if so, then we'll put together something and we can really just work towards a month that perhaps has some room in the agenda, and we'll put together based on, you gave a lot of feedback actually today and answered a lot of my questions, but if there's anything that anybody wants to know in advance and you let me know, I can make sure that it's very thorough and we have all the answers that you might want to hear.
Oh, that's great. Thank you, Mandy. No, that's exactly the kind of presentation we want. To have actual members that were helped and supported by the association. A few years ago, we had a member of Voice come in and do a presentation on Voice, and she did a fabulous job. And so it was, it's the exactly kind of presentation that is welcomed here, and it's great to see. So that'd be great to set up pick a month or whatever. If you want to bump one of ours, that's fine. Or we do same night, doesn't matter, right? So. So yeah, that's great. Thank you so much. Okay, so are there any more discussion items for agenda item 10? No? Okay. So we'll, Trustee Murphy, any luck?
No, apologies from Trustee Powell. She has offered to, when she gets back online, to email it to the committee this evening. That's all I can offer.
That works fine. That's okay. She has a report that she wants to send off via email. So yes, that's fine. We'll certainly hope everything works out for her to end. And okay, so now we'll go to the meeting summary. Next steps, item 11. So we have a few items to add to the business arising. We have forms that'll be sent out for members to sign up for committees, subcommittees. Please keep in mind that the Spirit of Inclusion Subcommittee needs to be, I guess, needs to meet sometime in February, so we could have people put their hands up for that one. Do you want to? So, and it's an online. Sorry. So yeah. So it's an online meeting as well. So there's no requirement to come into the office to meet. I believe what happens is that we get a bunch of the package of the applicants, the recommendations from the schools sent out, and we review it ahead of time. It's pretty extensive. It's usually 20 or 30 or more kids to look through, so it's a big package, which is great. A lot of great students on that. So we will have hopefully forms sent out for that. We will, if anyone wants to recommend or ask for any presentation items from staff, by all means, please submit your requests or questions. Is there anything I'm missing? Any more pro-grant presenters? Anyone thinks of any other names they would like to throw into the hat to select from? That'd be great. Other than that, I think we're going to put some of these items on the next agenda, including the code of conduct item on the business arising, I believe. Put that one section on there, maybe get out to members ahead of time so we can look at that specific section. We don't have to review the whole document like you said. We just did it back in December of 2021, so not necessary to that whole work together as, again, in a subcommittee. And I think that covers it. Have I missed anything, buddy? Okay, great. So I need a resolution for absentees. I believe it's just Trustee Powell. And Ms. Saunders, okay, and Jessica. And I'm sorry, Angela Santos, okay. So you have a resolution to, can I have someone move that resolution for the absentees?
I'll move it.
Great, thanks, Trustee Murphy. Can I have a seconder, please?
Can second it.
Thanks, Maria. Great. And so we'll go on to for item 14, adjournment and closing prayer. So can I get a mover for adjourning the meeting? Pardon me. Maria, we'll move it. Can I have a seconder, please? Tracy? Great, thank you. So moved by Maria, seconded by Tracy, and we'll finish with closing prayer. Time of faith, in the name of the Father and Son, and Holy Spirit, amen. Blessed are you, O God of all creation. Each day you spread before us the rich and wonderful diversity of the human family created in the divine splendor of your love. Fashioned in your image, you call us to love one another. Same tender care with which you brought us to creation. Each one of us is but one small part of the glory that is you. As we serve the students and families of the Halton Catholic District School Board and the Special Education Advisory Committee, fill us with your grace, guide us with your wisdom, and give us strength and courage to do your work, so that it may always be said of our every act, God saw that it was good. Amen. In the Father and Son. Thank you, everyone. Enjoy your night, and we'll see you at the next meeting. Take care.
Thank you, everyone.